Hi, and welcome to another episode of Her Travel Expert. Today, we are going to be talking about all kinds of tricks and tips to make sure you and your family have a successful spring break.
Plus, where you should go.
Welcome to Her Travel Expert.
I'm Kirsten Maxwell from Kids Our Trip and Groups Our Trip.
And I'm Megan Rithston from MommyTravels.net.
We're here to help you make every trip unforgettable.
Okay, so let's start it off with spring break tips. How far in advance should somebody start planning spring break? Does it matter? Do we need to start a year in advance? Last minute? Give me your take on it.
I don't think it matters when you plan it. I mean, if you want to go big, that's going to take some planning. You want to go to Thailand? Yeah, you should plan that in advance.
Right.
I think a lot of it comes down to airfare right now because airfare is so high and has been so high for the last year and a half that there's no such thing as getting a good last minute deal on airfare these days. And so, if you're going to Asia, my gosh, you better have planned that out months ago. If you're going to Europe, you probably should have been at least a month ago. But last minute, you can road trip. That's pretty easy to do super last minute. If you live in a destination that's got, a lot of different places available to you within driving, you can plan the night before. So I'm a very last minute person. I'll even leave the country last minute. That's me.
I think that's exactly right on. I think from what I've seen just in our family travel Facebook group, people are planning, if you're staying in an all-inclusive resort, Caribbean's on your radar for spring break, likelihood is that's out. Like every destination has been booked for months. Hotels have been booked for years. So that's not really a good last minute destination if you're looking for it. Same with Hawaii, I feel like. I tried to do Hawaii spring break a couple of years ago, and it was just, I could get flights, but everything else was booked. All the hotels were booked. There weren't rental cars available. It may be a little different this year. I haven't looked at Hawaii, but things like that and you said Europe, but I actually think Europe, if you could find a reasonable flight, it could be doable because it's just so big. We've done some last minute, but when I say last minute, I mean, we may be planned in December for a March trip. So a few months lead time.
Well, I know one thing I'll do on Skyscanner is you can type in your airport and then choose everywhere. And you can put those dates in, your spring break dates, and then it'll look everywhere and it will start listing countries from cheapest to most expensive. So that's typically when we go that last minute, that's how I found the deal. So, and that's why we're in that particular country because I just happened to come across something crazy. Turkey. I booked that a few weeks out because I think I booked it in June and we went in July. So
I've used Momondo, Momondo, does the same thing as Skyscanner where you just pick your dates and say everywhere and it'll show you what's available and what the prices are for flights. So that could be another tool to use to find last minute things. I also love Costco Travel because they put together some really good vacation packages. So you can kind of look through their website. They do Caribbean, Hawaii. I think they do some Europe packages, but you can always put in your dates and see if they have anything available last minute that might be worth looking at.
That's great. I've never used them. The only package thing I can think of that I've done something like that was Apple Vacations.
Oh, yeah.
It's similar. Sounds very similar. So, but it's kind of more of a set. It is a true package.
Yeah, they do. It's airfare, hotel, usually transfers as well, which who doesn't love that? And when you're traveling with a family, it makes it super easy. So
yeah, I will say my cousin Kyla was hitting me up a couple of weeks ago about spring break. She's like, I think I waited too long, and they really wanted to do Mexico and had kind of like a real specific idea in mind of what they wanted to do. And she's like, it's booked. I was like, well, look at Costa Rica because it's further,
Yeah.
It's still easy to get to. Spirit Airlines flies direct down there from quite several airports in America. So you could still maybe get a cheap ticket. So, but the rule of thumb for us with Mexico or any of the islands, the Bahamas or Jamaica or Grand Caymans is Black Friday. If you're looking for a deal, hit Black Friday, Cyber Monday, get it booked. That way it's not sold out by the time January 1st hits.
That's right. Okay. So tell me, do you have a favorite spring break trip that you've done with your kids, whether it was last minute or fully planned? Is there one that comes to top of mind as like, hey, this was great. Let's start with international. Maybe you have an international destination you recommend for spring break.
Yeah, I've got two that we've done for spring break. One was Whistler. We did a ski trip we did tubing, we did zip lining in the snow, we went skiing, and the mountains there are massive. So you could ski for 3 days and you maybe do a third of what they have. Plus it's like a village. And so everything's walkable. The shuttle service is really good around the little areas. Everything that you could need is right there. The store, the playground, the hotel, the mountain, any of the other activities, it's all right there, which I just
Okay,
find to be super
perfect.
convenient, especially if you're traveling with younger children. Makes it really easy. Gosh, also international said I had two.
I think you had Panama was one of your other ones.
Oh yeah, Panama's great. I haven't done that for spring break. But Panama, much like Costa Rica, which I can recommend both of those, you've got jungle. You've got incredible zip lining and rappelling in the jungle. You've got waterfalls you can hike to. You've got beaches. I mean, you can go surfing or you can just chill at the beach. In Panama, you can see the Panama Canal. A lot of the animals that you can see in Costa Rica, you can also see in Panama. I know a lot of people complain that Costa Rica is too busy or they can't get quite the availability they wanted. Look at Panama. I think that's a great opportunity a great alternative to Costa Rica. And they've got a ton of lodging too. And they have both coasts, just like Costa Rica. So you can stay on the Atlantic or the Pacific side. I'm trying to remember which side we stayed on when we went. I think we were on the Pacific and it was lovely. But yeah, we saw monkeys and we got to go down the Panama Canal in a boat. I thought that was super interesting. And yeah, it's a neat experience. How about you?
I was thinking, I think I would recommend not this year because it's Jubilee and also because it's last minute, but Italy we've done on spring break before. And we did plan it a little bit with our tickets, our airfare we bought on Black Friday, but we had priced it out compared to a ski vacation and a Disney vacation, and Italy came in cheaper. So when you figured in the cost of ski school for your kids or the cost of all the Disney park tickets, Italy it was like $4,000 cheaper than what it would have cost us to go to either one of those destinations. So we did spring break in Italy. We did Rome, Pompeii, Florence, and Venice. And we had like 10 days, I think. I kept the kids out of school a little bit longer, but the weather there is interesting in the spring because it was nice in Rome the first day. It was hot in Pompeii. It was snowing in Venice and it was pleasant and a little cool in Florence. So I think it's kind of hit or miss there with what kind of weather you can expect in March/April. But I think it's a good off-season time to go because not a lot of people are, especially from the States, are planning to travel to Italy or overseas in general for spring break.
Well, you get such a short window. I mean, only a 7 day typically, or let's say you throw in both weekends, 9 days. We've gone to Asia twice for spring break,
Wow.
but I had my kids miss an additional week of school.
Okay.
And that's when we used to live in Oregon and they don't have school requirements. They could miss as much school as they wanted to, but
Yeah.
it's taking you just a day to get there and a day to get back. I mean, 2 days are gone, just flat times because it's a long way. Same thing if you want to go to South America, man, it is a haul.
Right.
So something to keep in mind. Spring break is, but a flight to Rome is pretty easy. I mean,
Yeah.
shoot, you can go to Turkey in 10 hours from DFW airport. So what are
Yeah.
you in Rome in 7?
I know it's about 10. So
Is it 10?
still,
Oh, okay. So
it's
there you
still
go.
yeah, yeah. So yeah, because I just did that in August. It was 10. So, but
Mm.
easy. It really just depends on your kids' ages, I think, because easy for me is not necessarily easy for somebody traveling with small kids.
Well, that's true because we're gearing up to go back to Sri Lanka this summer. That'll be our third time to go. It's one of my most favorite places on earth, but you have to have 11 days
Wow.
minimum.
Yeah.
So that way you're in the country for at least 9. And honestly, 10 days in the country would be better. I mean, if you're going to go that far, because it's DFW to Qatar is 16 hours, and then or Qatar, however you pronounce it, into Sri Lanka is like another 5 to 7 hours, depending on wind. And so you're not doing that with little kids. So
No. Okay.
it's
So
just too hard.
tell me what would be some of your favorite road trip or spring break or road trip destinations in the US, both of them.
Well, if we're going to road trip, we're not going that far.
Right, and I think that's what a lot of
So
people are doing over spring break is because you are limited on time. I think road trips become quite popular for families.
I really like going down to San Antonio, the San Antonio River Walk. Plus, there's a Six Flags there. There's a water park there. There's really good food there. I mean, the Mexican food there is incredible. There's a lot of cultural elements throughout the city because some of the original missions were there, and so they've got a lot going on in their city, which is surprising because it's not that big of a city. It is growing quite rapidly, but a lot of new hotels. The Pearl area, ever since Hotel Emma opened up, it's been shocking to kind of watch that area grow because first it was just a hotel, now it's restaurants and bars. And the last time I was there, I was at this incredible jazz bar, and I just didn't expect to have like such a most excellent jazz experience in San Antonio, Texas. And then they've got rooftop bar for the adults, for the college students on spring break. There's a lot to do, and then for the families with little kids, the Morgan's Wonderland is there. Which, if you have a special needs child and you want to be able to take them to have an amusement park experience, that is absolutely where you want to take them, because every ride is handicap accessible. And so if you've got one child that is not special needs and one that is, they can both ride the same ride together. So, and it's just incredibly well done. And they added a water park, and they have all the wheelchairs that go into the water. You don't even need to have to own that equipment to be able to go and enjoy that experience.
I love that they do that. And
Mhm.
San Antonio would have been one of my recommendations too, but was also going to recommend when we lived in Chicago, one year my husband couldn't travel with us for some reason, so I did a road trip with the boys and we drove from Chicago to Chattanooga. And on the way down, we stopped in Louisville because you can do the Louisville Slugger Museum. They have mega caverns, which are like these underground caverns you can actually drive into during like the holidays. They have a big display, but it was fun, just kind of a stopover. And then we went on to Chattanooga, and Chattanooga has Ruby Falls, which is I swear at least 5 stories, probably bigger than that, inside of cavern waterfall. We did their Chattanooga Aquarium, which is amazing. Probably one of the best done aquariums I've seen in the United States with my kids. And they also have Rock City, which is just as it sounds. It's all these natural rocks that kind of form a park that you kind of walk through, and the kids loved it. I mean, because you can climb, you can go in little caves. I mean, has views out over the countryside. So that was really great. And then on the way back, we stopped in Nashville, which is another great place for kids. They also have a science center there. They had the Grand Ole Opry. I took the boys. We did a backstage tour. They got to be on the stage live during a performance, which was really fun. They also have, what's the other thing there? Belmead Plantation. They have Cheekwood Gardens. I mean, there's all kinds of things there. It's the perfect, I thought, spring break getaway because it just had like the good weather and it was easy to get to, and each destination offered a ton to do for kids.
I gotta say, I thought Louisville was great. I did a trip there with my kids along with my nieces, and we did a bunch of different stuff while we were there. Ate a lot of really good food. The Southern food is top notch and
Yeah.
quite enjoyable. Big Bad Breakfast. I love that place so much. I bought the cookbook.
Oh, funny. Yeah.
Really good children's museum that we took my nieces to, and we found a hotel where it like slept 6 people, so that was nice because there were a bunch of us. So we didn't have to get a Airbnb, which I was thankful for. So.
Yeah, exactly. Those times you can save that money.
Something you said about Chattanooga made me think of Colorado Springs. That's a great destination because it's
Hmm.
Seven Falls, Pikes Peak. There's a bunch of stuff to do there.
Is it cold during spring break though? That would be my question.
Yeah, and it's a little cold there in the summer too. I think my
Yeah.
mom took us in the summer when we were kids
Okay.
and it was chilly.
Yeah, yeah. But yes, beautiful destination too. So tell me, have you ever done a staycation with your kids where you stay and explore from home, maybe in your own backyard, things that you wouldn't necessarily check out?
If I have to.
Really? You didn't never did that in Oregon, like going and exploring? Yes, you have. I know you have, because there's some pretty cool places near where you lived in Oregon.
Well, yeah, but we didn't like take the week off to do it. It was just over the weekend. Yeah,
Yeah,
so I mean, yeah, living in Portland, Oregon, there was a ton to do. So hiking, I mean, you could hike a different waterfall every day for 2 weeks there.
that's
The
awesome.
foodie scene's incredible. There was a lot of different interesting things to do around the city. They have OMSU, which is probably the best science museum I've ever seen for kids. And
Mm,
they even have a special room inside of it. It's just up to 5 years old and it's extensive. It's like a museum in a museum. So,
yeah,
I mean, you could easily spend a day there. We used to have a membership. We would go fairly often because the zoo, the zoos on the West Coast are next level. And I didn't know that till I got, until we lived on that in that part of the country. But I mean, because they're just so much bigger than zoos in other parts of the country. And not to bash on zoos, I'm not going to get political, but the zoos on the West Coast are 5 times, 6 times, 10 times bigger. So their habitats are much more extensive. And it's a really beautiful way to spend the day and pack a lunch. And sometimes they had concerts there. And
yeah.
they're often so big, they have other stuff happening. So.
Yeah, I would say when you said that, San Diego Zoo is one of my all-time favorite zoos. I mean, as far as zoos go, but they do a wonderful job with habitat and West Coast kind of yes, San Diego's on the West Coast. So, but I think for me, we did do a lot of Chicago staycations when we lived there, since we lived outside the city. I'd spend the week kind of going around with the kids and checking out different things. One of our favorites was the Museum of Science and Industry there. There's also the Field Museum, which is like the dinosaur museum. There's the Shed Aquarium. The other things that I would say is you have Maggie Daley Park, which is a huge outdoor play structure. They have ice skating ribbon during the winter months. So if it's still cold enough during a spring break, you can check that out. You go to Navy Pier, ride the Ferris wheel. So, I mean, there's a lot to do in Chicago, which most people don't think of during spring break, but it's kind of nice because it's not so crowded.
I know we popped up to Seattle quite a few times, like little weekend trips. And I do think we did spring break up there one time. Same thing. There's just a lot to do. Hiking, museums, good food, like just an interesting city. So, I mean, we're both based near DFW Airport now, and there's a ton of stuff to do around Dallas Fort Worth. I mean, you can pop into Fort Worth and go to the stockyards, and kids can do like the petting zoo, watch the cows. They got like a maze out there, and you can ride a mechanical bull. And then they have all these bars you can just walk around and drink now. That's new in the last few
How with
years.
your
So the
kids?
parents well, the parents are just like having the
Yeah.
time of their life with their children. They can have a few. They got live music out there. I mean, it's like they do a gunslinger show. The train comes in and stops there from Grapevine. It goes back and forth from there or you can go into Dallas and see the Sixth Floor Museum and learn about what happened to President Kennedy, or go to the Dallas Zoo. Fort Worth has a zoo. Six Flags is in Arlington. Grand Prairie's got an indoor amusement park, indoor water park. Like, the whole area is growing so rapidly. We've got a Meow Wolf and Grapevine. I mean, we do stuff all the time around here. The Andretti went
The
into the
race car.
colony. The colony is becoming more and more of a destination to do stuff, because they've got the Tiger Woods.
Oh,
Tiger
pop.
Woods decided to launch his own like putt-putt type
Yeah, yeah.
courses. There's one in the colony. There's the man-made surfing in the colony. There's kind of like the Sphere in Las Vegas. They've
Mhm.
got kind of a smaller version of it at the colony at Grandscape.
Yeah, that area, every time I drive out there, has just grown more and more, and there's so much to offer. And there's I believe, a Nickelodeon amusement park coming. Not sure exactly when. I feel like within the next 2 years, I think, out in Frisco, I think. So,
Universal. It's not
oh,
Nickelodeon,
that's
it's
what it is.
Universal.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So,
Yeah, but it's going to be a Universal for younger children.
yeah, I'll be interested to see how that all plays out. So,
Yeah, and I feel like the first renditions I saw of it are smaller than what they're saying it's going to be now. The last map I saw of it, to me, looked a lot bigger. And then North Richland Hills is getting a Peppa Pig
oh, okay.
amusement park that literally should open, if it hasn't already, it's soon, because they broke ground not this past summer, but the one before, I believe.
Yeah. So, if you find yourself not being able to afford or swing a vacation this year, why not just explore in your own backyard? As we said, there's obviously tons to do in Dallas where we live, but I'm sure there's tons to do where you're located as well. So, anything else you wanted to add about spring break ideas?
There's two other destinations I'd recommend driving to. I think a lot of people head to the Panhandle of Florida. The kids and I went to Panama City Beach a few years ago for spring break, and I was pleasantly surprised to see that they had outlawed alcohol on all public beaches. So that crazy party scene that you used to see on MTV, and Snoop Dogg and Dr. Dre are down on the beach and everybody's going nuts, that's over. It was like really quiet. It was great. So it was a wonderful, like, it's a very family oriented area with go-karts and putt-putt and good seafood, and the beaches are beautiful in the Panhandle. Really, all of Florida's beaches are beautiful. Another destination I think that is good to drive to, depending on where you're at in the country, is Gatlinburg. I went there for the first time last September, and it was incredible. Like, I was super impressed with the whole area. I drove through Dollywood. It looked just as good too. In Gatlinburg, we went fly fishing, hiking. There was camping everywhere. So I know a lot of families camp instead of staying in hotels. It looked like a fabulous camping destination. I saw a ton of campgrounds, so that would make it way more affordable. I stayed at Embassy Suites Resort, which I didn't know they had resorts, but to be a resort, they had to have like two food options. So it had like a restaurant, an ice cream parlor, and then it had multiple pools, including a zero entry pool and a lazy river for the kids. So that
Oh,
was nice. And then it's free to get into the Great Smoky Mountain. You
National
just have
Park.
to have a parking pass. And then once you're in the park, they have some paved hiking. Even if you had a stroller, you could do the hike. And then they had a lot more challenging hiking, obviously. I mean, it's a national park. I was just super impressed with the whole area. There were like a Ripley's, there were mountain coasters. We went up to a place called Anakista where they had two mountain coasters. They had like a really elaborate like playground kind of built into the mountain, which was really neat. I remember like jumping on a kind of like a trampoline type floor, and then the slides were crazy because they went down the mountain. And then they had that Astra Illuminate, I think is what it's called, which is in a couple of different destinations now. And you walk through the woods, it's super dark, and then you come across this like light art installation. So there's like
Oh, okay.
7 different installations. So you're walking down this path, and I thought that was really neat. So kind of just a unique, very different. And again, for the parents, there's a lot of moonshine tasting you can do. There were wineries and shopping, but there were tons for families to do.
Yeah, it's funny because I actually took Ronan and we did Pigeon Forge, which is right next to
Oh, that's where Dollywood
right
is, right? I
next
said
right next
Dollywood
to
as if that was
Gatlinburg.
the town.
Yeah.
It's Pigeon Forge. It's what is it?
Yeah, it's
Pigeon Forge?
Pigeon Forge. It's right next
Okay.
door to Gatlinburg. So they're kind of two different vibes. Gatlinburg seemed like much more small towny, and Pigeon Forge is like a strip mall full of activity. So they have dinner shows. Like we went to a pirate dinner show, which was kind of fun, cute. We did miniature golf. We went to the island at Pigeon Forge where it's just shopping, arcades, restaurants, those kind of thing. We took a pink Jeep tour into the national park, and that was a ton of fun. A little bit like off-roading.
Is that the same pink Jeep tours available in like Sedona, Arizona?
Yes, I believe they're
Okay.
the same company, but they may be franchised, so don't quote me on that.
Okay.
But yeah, but we had a great time. We did some of those alpine coasters as well, and just it is a really great destination. I think probably most of the year when it's not. I mean, in the winter, maybe that's when you take your romantic getaway there, but definitely I'd say spring to fall. I mean, it's perfect for families because there's a ton to do.
Do you want to talk about? I know a couple of years ago we both ended up in the same state but 2 different cities, and we both had the worst spring breaks ever.
Well, mine wasn't terrible, so I can't vouch for that. So my
We went to Hot Springs, Arkansas.
yours was. So I'm
Hated it.
not going to bash on that. So haven't been, so I can't speak to it. I know you did not like it. So
Let me save all the families the trouble of showing up in Hot Springs and having nothing to do. The weather isn't good enough by March
oh,
to
darn.
take a trip there.
And it's
Period.
funny you mentioned that because we did a road trip from Vegas to the Grand Canyon to Zion back to Vegas for spring break. And I thought the weather would be much better than it was. And we got stuck in a snowstorm outside of Flagstaff for, I think the car stopped at 2 and then we didn't start going again till 2 in the morning. And we spent the night in a Love's truck stop. So just when you think that spring break's the time to go do those national parks, you might want to reconsider because some years they do get snow, and we had snow in Zion. We canceled our Narrows hike because it snowed that day. So just something to keep in mind, like everything looks good on a map, like it should be warm. It's Nevada, not always the case.
Yeah, and in Hot Springs defense, I could have done some research. I assumed that there were going to be a lot of hot springs that we could enjoy because I
You would
like
think,
hot springs.
you would think.
No, they have bathhouses that are not always open.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Okay. Well, that's kind of a bummer.
let me tell you what, I did a bathhouse once in Budapest.
Yeah.
Yuck.
No, not a fan.
I don't want to be with a bunch of hairy men. Gross.
Yeah, that's probably not. We'll probably end on that note because since everybody can just have this visualization of hairy men
I could
sitting
make
in
it
their
worse.
hot bathhouse, we'll leave
It
it at
got worse.
that. Anyway, hopefully we've given you some inspiration for your spring break trip planning, and we will catch you on the next episode.